Hey, it's 28 millimeter RPG here, Rick, and along with me we have Mr. Max
Hello.
and SHONNER down below. And today we're going to talk about things that we see in usual games. So if you're a player out there, or think of it as game master too, but if you're a player out there and you find that the game master or the DM moves your character around for you all the time, instead of you taking control of your character, the game master goes ahead and decides that you follow along with the players, like you're chained with the rest of them, regardless of what you say. Or the GM talks in your behalf. Many examples of this is where the game master shorthands the interaction between you and an NPC. He does you talk to the leather worker, you negotiate a price, make a roll the dice, and do that. Do you really feel that you're in control of that conversation? Another thing is GMs giving multiple routes, choose A, B, or C, giving you those kinds of options. If you feel like you want something different than what you're being given here, and GMs, keep an open ear out here. We may have something to say that may switch things up, get your players more interactive. But if you feel like all of you guys out there are suffering from some sort of a problem like this may solve your issues. If not, continue on playing, go on and have a good time, play the way you always have. You enjoy it that way. That's where you belong. But we are looking for the players that are kind of sick and tired of it and want to play the heroes and characters they've always imagined themselves to be. And that's what we're all about with 4D roleplay. Guys, so what do you guys find as somebody, did I list off all the GM, all the grievances that maybe players would have with a game master, starting with Mr. Max? You got any additional things? What really bugs you in a game?
You touched on the big one there with the railroading, basically the lack of option, or like the multiple choice kind of game, right? There's you can do, like you said, A, B, or C. Well, what if I want to do D, right? What if I want to do? So you touched on the big one with those, and obviously the role playing in second person, which we call like telling the player what they do, what they feel, what they see, what they think, right?
Yeah.
I think also there's a lot of problem we can talk from the side of the player as well, like because sometimes the GM are unsatisfied with what the player doing. Sometimes it also come from them, like they train like as a GM, oftentimes you train your player to be passive or to be, so there's that as well.
That's true. It's true. SHONNER.
Hello. I watched 2 actual plays this morning. One of them, okay, let's say you go to a kid's bookstore. You want to buy a book for your kid to read to your kid because your kid's learning how to read. So you get them some kid story thing, bedtime story. As a parent, you then read that book to the kid. And the kid falls asleep while reading the book. That is how one of the game sessions was. The GM just told a story to everybody. And none of the players were in his story. They were just sitting there saying nothing for 2 hours.
Oh my goodness.
Then there's the other kind of story book the parent can get, and that's got buttons that you push. The owl makes this sound.
Okay.
Pull this tab and this pop-up happens in the book. And you see your character is inserted into the story because there's a little finger puppet that comes with the book. And you get to put the finger puppet on different parts of the book with Velcro, and the thing sticks there. and it's
Right.
also a bookmark for the story. The kid can come back later and read more as they learn to read about the story and their little finger puppet that's in the story. And they push buttons and it tells them what page to go to next. You know, choose your own adventure.
Right.
Now,
Right.
I saw an actual play this morning that was done that way, where the GM gives options. What do you guys want to do? You can do this, you can do this. Some of the players were, well, I was thinking that my character would try doing this. And of course you have to roll. Spot hidden, spot check, whatever.
Right.
Every option has a role linked to it.
Yeah. And if the player chooses option D, they have to do a harder roll. Because it's not something the GM had already pre-planned for his story.
Yeah.
But at least you're in the story in one of the games I watched. But you just get to choose. You only get to choose what the GM reads next from his book. Because you're not going to die. You're in a tavern. Or you're in a dungeon solving clues like Nancy Drew or Hardy Boys, Scooby-Doo. You're not going to die in a mystery game.
Yeah. Yeah. You think this was mostly learned by example, or do you think that there was actually, game masters out there that were like, I have to control this thing. It's like herding cats for me. I need to have a way that I can keep everybody together and continue this story.
I think it's failed substitute teachers that get into the hobby. They want to control a classroom for at least a day.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But they don't know their students because they're filling in for the day.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
That would be the rando player.
Sorry, Shonner.
Go ahead. I'm done.
I think a lot of it comes from like people have the impression that they are, like, the GM have the impression that they're there to tell a story. They put a lot of pressure on themselves, right? And they prepare, and now they try to think about, what my character, they try to get in the mindset of their players. Ironically, we often talk about getting in the mindset of your character, but now it's the GM trying to get in the mindset of their player before the session, trying to guess what they might think of, right? And obviously you're always gonna miss something. So now you're gonna need to restrict the option. But I think a lot of it, they put this pressure on themselves, well, I'm the GM, I have those responsibilities, I need to entertain the player. I think that's wrong. I think that's a wrong way. But a lot of advice that they see on YouTube is gonna push them in that direction, how to make cooler story, how to direct your player, and how to, and they're gonna talk about player buy-in, stuff like that. All the advice push them in that direction. And on the other side, nowadays, a lot of the new player that join the TTRPG hobby, they've played RPG on as a video game before, right? It'd be very uncommon for somebody to never touch an RPG on a video game. And a video game, you have limited option just by design, right? So now they go up and they play a video game by hand, right? I think it is a learned behavior. You don't have if you take somebody that never played RPG before, video game or table, I think you can have much more success on just telling well, just tell me what your character would do in that situation, right? And they don't have this stuff what are my options? Well, just tell me what would make sense for him. They don't have this reflex of well, what button can I push? Written lies.
Yeah, this is where I say it's a kind of the player has to have a responsibility now if they pursue this to be more interactive. So now they have to be they have to say what they're doing every turn, every time their turn comes up. And for those that don't interact in that way, like the person that which we call the 1D player, not to be we're not trying to be mean or anything, but we're explaining the interactivity of different kinds of players. And the 1D player is that player that sits back and says really nothing for the entire session. And you see those players all over the place.
I saw one last night.
Yeah. And the thing is to get those people to kind of realize, okay, you can come out of your shell and get more interactive, and trying to teach them. It's just like real life. What Max was saying this morning. How do you ask questions and stuff? It's just like real life. You say what you're doing. I get up. Wherever you are. But keep in mind, as a game master, if you're putting yourself in the bedroom and getting up, your adventure is going to start there, and I'm going to start throwing in ninjas coming through the walls and stuff like that. Or if you're a character on a bus to Mars, you're going to be interacting with NPCs in there right away with a possible possible conflict that could occur on the ride there. But it's entirely up to the player themselves to motivate themselves to establish how their character acts in this world. And are they the person that takes action? Are they the ones to stand back and let things happen and then intercede when they think that they have the advantage? These are all things that players should be thinking in their heads. How is my character working in here? You might come in with an idea of how your character will act, but when it comes down to the actual play, that's when it's vital that you go ahead and act on those things. If you're not doing, the interaction, and you're just staying back, hoping that the game master in a 3D, 4D game is going to go ahead and nudge your character along. I'm sorry to say, but if that game master is trying to stay in narrator form, he's not going to interact with you that way. So you'll find it's kind of a dead end. You have to move. A creature comes in, you're going to get bitten unless you move. You got to explain to the game master how you're moving around in the environments that you're in. And so that's where we have practice sessions. In fact, we have one going on right now, which is actually based on Star Wars. They're doing a practice session to see if I believe it's the D6s that they're the ones that you roll a fistful of D6s, D6 space kind of Star Wars, pretty much the original. That one, they're seeing whether or not they can do something with that. So our group has been really trying to push limits and boundaries in seeing what works, what doesn't work as far as game systems. As we've tried quite a few already. Mm-hmm. Some of them are a little tough. Some of them are what do you think, Max? You've done a few sessions in different kinds of. Which ones do you find are really hard to 3D, 4D role play in? And which ones do you find are easier to do this in?
Like for most of the session, like we're just like in character and stuff like that. We're not rolling all the time, so sometimes like the system doesn't get in the way that much. But there's definitely some system like even the one we're doing now, which I love the game, like the campaign that we're doing. I'm very into it, and I can't wait to go back to that. But the Rising Sun one, right? When it comes to combat and stuff like that, with this shock mechanic, right? It's very hard to integrate it just in the description without having to refer to the mechanic, right? Just like there's no real, sometimes you kind of there's this information, this meta information that you need to pass, right? About the EC, about the oh no, okay, that's damage, and because sometimes you have to express damage and stuff like that. But not well, okay, is it matter? Is it shock damage or is it not shock damage? It matters because my character will react mechanically will react differently to it, right?
Right.
So there's those mechanics that are much more mechanical in their nature. So when you go to a game with Traveler, where the mechanics are much more simpler, and there's less a need of this fine detail fine detailing of what exactly is happening in the mechanics, because like, you know what, I know how the system work, so we don't have to fiddle with the fine detail, right? So I think that helps a lot. The other thing when we're playing like a Castle and Crusade, one problem I had with this one was sometimes that the fact that the combat can be very swingy because it's D20 base with small modifier and stuff like that. That also sometimes, like, you know, when you roll, like you fail and you fail and you fail and you fail, it kind of break your immersion and fine, like at some point, because you say, well, I'm kind of supposed to be good at that, and just like, and not just because of the dice, like it just like it becomes a bit yeah, it becomes too much of a luck roll, like Shonner would say.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
Shonner,
It's a luck roll.
your input. I know you're basically you have kind of kept with the traveler system. I know you have some interest in the total party skills system as well.
Yeah, they're almost the same.
They are kind of close, yes.
They both have target numbers that you're trying to roll equal or under, kind of a thing. But some would argue that TPS is sort of a die pool system, because the better you are at strength, the more dice you get to roll. But you're not counting successes. You're just adding the dice still.
Which works well when you have like a program like Sophie's Dice that does the adding for you.
Oh yeah,
that is true.
Sometimes when you play like at the table with real dice, I find like some people are slow. As soon as you have them like add more than 2 numbers together, then they become like very slow. Some people are bad at math. A lot of people are bad at math. And like Joshua Allen that wrote the TPS system said he was kind of trying to do, what if the World of Darkness system had an OSR version, right? So you try to go like devolve the World of Darkness system and make it kind of simpler.
Yeah, because World of Darkness counted successes, right?
Yes, World of Darkness counted success. And also one thing that bothers me in World of Darkness is like not only it counts success, but when you have to remove the ones from your success and like that, then you have like a 2-step process. So now like, okay, now I have to count the success, and that you can even fucking program in Sophie's Dice, and just like
yeah, and then you have stuff like the hunger dice and stuff like that too.
That's in the later edition, which I never played.
Oh, like okay.
Yeah, I'd be curious.
One thing I wanted to say about 1D players is that they pretty much don't say anything during the game until the GM says roll for initiative.
Correct. Yeah.
And then they get to say stuff like, I rolled a 12. I attack. I roll, and then the GM says, oh, you killed the guy. Explain what that looks like. And the guy says, I just killed it with the sword. And then the GM says, okay, so you totally cut the guy in half with your sword, and you're drinking blood from his skull and all that kind of stuff. And the player's like just sitting there not saying anything.
Yeah, that's where, once again, that's the game master taking over the agency of the character in order to make it more exciting, or, instead of the player doing it. It took me a long time to kind of pull myself out of that. And I keep my videos up on the old sessions that I did in order to kind of show that example. And, if I want to, I can bring it up and re-show how badly I played out those. I mean, they weren't bad for a 2D game, but
for 2D they're fine for 2D.
Yeah. But yeah, it was really tough for me to get over that hurdle, trying to pull myself out of the game in order to let my players play. And then I kind of felt with when I had the 1D players there as well, in the same group, I kind of felt bad because now I've pulled myself out. These guys aren't interacting very well, so I had to force measures. Yeah,
they're not filling in the void.
Yeah, it was hard.
You took the
Uh,
training wheels off.
Yeah. And they were stuck there. They were like, I can't go forwards. What do I do? You know? So, you know, they'd have to rely on their own, you know, ways to balance, you know?
I had to do that too. I used to be the GM that just came up with all the ideas and then make the players roll for every turn. I used to be that guy. But then
Yeah.
I thought, you know what? Take the training wheels off. I don't say hardly anything except describe the location. And then the players have to tell their story. I'm not going to tell their story for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to tell the player, like, you know, you're playing the protagonist of those story, like the protagonist of the story we're telling together. You have to protag. You have to be like proactive, and you have to do stuff, right? Just like you're not just there, like your character. If you want to play like the protagonist of a story, like you're not just an NPC. Your character is imposing his will on the world. Like it's not, you're not just like there waiting for the world to like push you around, right? Nobody wants to see story like that. Just like you're just like reacting and like barely, you're just like basically like being pushed around by the world, right? Just like that's boring. No.
Well, in the 80s, the GMs would disguise these situations by saying, what do you think's more important? The players revolve around the setting, or does the setting revolve around the players? And that pretty much let you know what kind of GM this person is.
Mm-hmm.
Also, when the GM starts at the beginning of the session asking each player, what do you hope to get out of this game? What are your ambitions? What things are you hopeful for? What things are you excited about this next session? That's the sign that the GM has no idea on what they're going to do, and they're trying to pull ideas from the player before they start the game.
Well, it's almost like, I think it's almost like this last one. It's almost like trying to solve the problem of the, you know, because oftentimes like the problem we're talking about, player engagement and stuff like that, we're not the only one looking into it. Like, you're not the only one like noticing it. Like we notice like people are not engaged. Like even like those traditional channels, they talk a lot about that, how to get your player more engaged and stuff like that. And then they came up with other tricks and tips that
They
I think
never
don't
fix
work.
their problems though. They always talk about my players aren't engaged.
Yeah.
And then they might say how they would engage their players, but in practice their players are still not engaged.
Yeah, and stuff like, oh, you know what, like have them write a backstory and pull something from the backstory, and but also like this thing, like, you know, oh, what are you looking for the next session? What do you think? You like, that's also a way to try, like, oh, you know what, my player not very engaged, so I'm gonna try to probe and poll what they want and give them what they want, and you know, I'm gonna try to build the ride that they expect to find, and maybe then they're gonna find it exciting, and then they just it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I say, like, even the one time I was watching this can I go there? I was watching this interview with Ginger Harmony and Jeff Rowe. Didn't watch the whole thing to be fair, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at some point they were talking about that as well, like how player engagement and stuff like that. And now, like, and I find those people, they identify a lot of the same problem. The player don't feel like the setting belong to them, so now we're gonna let them create them through their action. Player, like, we're gonna let the player drive the narrative. You know, they're just going in a very different way. Like, they're moving completely away from role play and devolving the game back into a war game, where we say, you know what, it was supposed to be role playing game, so let's lean into the role play, right? That we're just like but initially, like at first, like a lot of the issues that we try to solve are similar. We're just going different of the opposite direction.
A lot of gamers that say, hey, we're going to try role play this time, what they end up doing is funny voices and just doing idle chit chat.
Yeah.
What I found,
they don't talk to NPCs about what they need to do to get something done. They're about their goals. There's no goals mentioned.
You see that in a couple of games, usually from the people that are kind of, you know, talking about us in kind of not a bright light, where they are trying to do that. The players are trying to do it, but the game master end of it fails them. And I see this a lot, where the game master ends up just carting them along, like, okay, That's what you're doing. Okay, you are going through the house, and now you're going through the living room, and now you see nothing in the living room, and now you go into the bedroom, and the players
I know
are
that game. I know that
Yep.
game you're talking about.
standing back and letting it happen when they're like, okay, I'm perfectly fine with my game master pushing me through the entire ride rails and everything,
The fun
and
house.
yeah, and I'm like, no, this could be so much more interesting, it could be what I approached a dark, decrepit house, looking it up and down, shuddering. Don't want to be here, but I got to go in there and investigate. Come on, James, let's go. And start heading in. And then your game master would describe the thing that as you are entering, you can describe the stairs creak and crack as steps fall over each other upon the wood planks. Inside further darkness dwells with the curtains swaying to the slight motions, the inside all charred in from a fire long ago. Then let the players continue on. So now the players are like getting an image in their head, and now they can add to the narrative too, including what's going on with James. James could say something and he could add to the narrative. He could describe, the withered trees on the outside. He's coming up with some ideas too. It becomes a co-creative idea, and now the game master can draw upon all this and keep it ongoing. You're guiding each other through the game as well. A lot of game masters seem to have this hang up where they need to control all that, and
a lot of it is like prep addiction, right? Just like people like they now they bought a book, so now they want to follow the book, or they made all this prep and now so if you got it, you want to use it, right? And you're gonna rely on it. And I said, just like you can like prep less or learn to prep differently. Some people say like prep to improvise, stuff like that, right? Just like, and I'll say also, what, remember, like if you change the mindset of your player, that they're not just there to be entertained, they're not audience member. That's often what I often say. The players are not there to be the audience member, they're co-creator, right? And you not there as a host to entertain them. You're also, the GM is also a player, and you're playing a game, and the game is also that. And like sometime I'm gonna come up with something like spontaneously. It might not have been the coolest thing I could have come up, but I come up on the spot with it on the spot, right? And I reacted what the player did. And now like this thing exists because of what the player did, which is much cooler than if I thought of something cooler but enforced the player through it, right? So like I could have thought of a cooler scenario if I had time, but then I would have to funnel the player through it, which is much less cooler, right? So that's the thing. Like, change your mindset, change your optic. You're playing a game. It's a role-playing game, so let the player role-play. Let them control their character. Everything they do, what they say, how they feel, that's on them, right? That's the BS of the players to control their character. And you, like, react to what they say, right? Just like and control the world.
What do you think of this newest fad or trend where the 2D GMs refuse to do a session 0 with their players and talk about what the setting's going to be, what tone, the themes, that kind of the mood. The GMs don't want to talk about that. The GMs say that's too much work. That's too much work before a game to talk to your players. When in reality, the GMs have been prepping for a campaign without any player input, and they think that's not work.
See, the GM is still coming through the concept that you really have to do a lot of prep and stuff like that before anything happens. I think once we initiated the rule to have a session 0 all the time,
Mhm.
It is because every time that we've had that session 0 where we get together and we brainstorm an idea, we're going to use this system, and what's going to be the setting about? So we come up, okay, fantasy. Let's do, we start bringing in the ideas. What are the knowns about the world? And me as the game master, I'm writing little notes, down, and I'm like, cool, okay. I'm thinking of different kinds of unknown things at the time that could be put in there, and I give myself like 2 or 3 kind of items. I could have, like for example, an outdoor encounter. I could have a few ideas that work in that kind of general scheme. I'm not. I don't know if I'm going to use them or not. 90% of it, I don't. It's kind of it either comes spontaneously through the gameplay, or it's a player's idea. He brings up something about maybe he knows about the witch in the forest along the way. He could bring something up like that. Beware that hag. She only wants children. We may have to negotiate a different way. And so one of the players might come up. Oh, why don't we go ahead and disguise one of the short one over here? He can be our kid, and that'll be our in. Then the players interact with each other. No, you're not going to go ahead and dress me up as a kid. That's and it starts up a whole thing, between the players, and you're learning about the players, and in the meantime, as that's going on, I'm like, okay, witch, blah blah blah. Give her a name, figure out her, pets and stuff like that. Maybe as if this is where we're going, I'm kind of quickly prepping a few ideas to pop in there, and they're just simple sentences. I don't have to add a whole lot of extra to it. I know what she'll do for spells and stuff like that. Kind of get the gist, because I've played. I guess if you had a lot of experience playing different types of games, you'll know you'll know basically what a gorgon does. It's like a big bull that turns people into stone with the gaze kind of idea. Or you got Medusa, which is kind of similar. All those things. It's gonna have the eyesight that turns you to stone and all, but it might have a twist to it too. You can throw in something like that as well. Instead of having a crossbow, she's up there manning a ballista, and that's, you guys are going through this courtyard full of pillars, and she's blasting you with the shots from a ballista bolt instead. Stuff like that. You can really amp up the game. Anything you have when we started doing the session 0, Mr. Max? What did you think at first hand? Did you think, maybe this would work, or no, this is the answer. This is what we need to do?
I love doing those sessions. Like, I don't think sometimes I think they can be like very short, and we can do them like on Discord basically. Sometimes like just like if it was gonna be in one shot,
Yeah.
like this is gonna be something. Especially if we do something mundane, right? Just like that, you can say like, oh, okay, the setting is gonna be this, right? Oh, like Crispy say, it's gonna be like the 70s is New York, right? Okay, we get what's happening. But especially when you go more fantasy and stuff like that, what I like about those session 0 is that we know, like, there's not a world that has been like planned behind the back of the player, right? And your characters are characters from this world, so they would know the world. So now we come at the session 0, and it's like tabula rasa, right? Just like there's nothing on the table, and we're building it together. So now the player feel much more free, I find. Like they feel like they know what the world is about because they were there at the inception of the world, and they feel more free to make assumption about the world, which is great to include stuff, and you can to continue the world building as we play, right? Like the world building doesn't stop after like session 0. We keep piling up on it. And also, people say that it's too much work. If it's too much work, you're doing it wrong, because those are fun, right? Like SHONNER, like best word. They're a good time, right? It's a creative exercise as well. Like, and then you get hyped up for the next for the session, right? Oh, Okay, now like I know where we're going. I know like you start brewing in your head. Okay, my character lived in that world. This is what the world is about. It's great, and everybody like get in the like there's nothing like that is gonna come out of the blue and say like, oh, actually in this, like what I hate is like when a GM go like, oh, actually in this world, right, you just fucking kill me. That goes back to what Shonner was talking earlier, like in the 80s when GM said like, well, what's more important, the character or the setting? For me, it's always been like character. Like always, like I like my setting more mundane, right? Because it allows player to make assumption. You can go a little more crazy, especially if the world have been co-created, and then you can define session zero, like the freedom you can live to the player. But story about setting, like the setting is a backdrop for the characters to evolve in. What we bond with, what we find interesting is other character. When you watch those crappy B movie, fantasy movie, right? They use character, they create this cool setting and they use the character as an excuse, a pretext to present the setting like fantasy or sci-fi, right? Just like they're just like, oh, look at this cool setting that we did, and the character are bland and stuff like that. Nobody want to watch that.
Yeah.
Character is what we
True.
relate to. So
Now,
for me, it's always been about character.
The GMPC, were those invented to get players to interact, or was that because the players weren't interacting, the GM felt they needed a GMPC to do the things the players just weren't interested in doing to promote the story or
The
progress the
GMPC is
story?
often like the railroad conductor.
Yeah, because I've
Oh,
heard
Lord,
people
yeah.
say I use them to get my players motivated,
Yeah,
but they always end up hogging the spotlight and saving the day.
giving the answer to the puzzle and
Yeah.
or like a little clue here and there. Yeah.
Yeah. There
When I was a kid, they were called the snowflake characters or something like that.
is Snowflake. Yeah,
You can't
I
indestructible.
I used to introduce characters that were kind of, important, and they were kind of like mentors that would guide you from one place to another, and a lot of it was like, well, then why aren't you doing this? Why is it not you? You could say the same thing about the players. Why isn't it you? Well, you are here to be the adventurer. You're here to have an experience, right? Is this correct? If this
Maybe
is where
players don't know what their characters are ever,
that's
But I think it's also like,
other than a character sheet.
I think it's also like those very well defined role between GM and player, right? Like when they have like this that's one thing that 40 can fix. Like we blur the line much more, right? But when we have this very clear line, players are afraid to step on the field, like a step on the over the line, right? Go like a step like of the GM, and a lot of GM don't like that either. Like that's sort of I love the critique that we see is about that, right? Just, no, I'm creating the world, I'm controlling the NPC, like they don't want like they want to keep the control, like, this control freak kind of thing, right? We're blurring the line, but like that's also a lot. Like now, if you want to have like this clear distinction, then you will have to have people like say, like, okay, this is what's happening over there. You should come quick. We need you and stuff like that. If you blur the line, it's much easier for the PC to say, yeah, I know this castle is over there, like on the mountain, right? You just made it up, right? Just like you don't need somebody to tell you, but now you can just make it up, and that's fine. But some GMs say, well, I planned something else already for that, right? Just and then they panic. I said, just relax. It's a game.
You grew up in this town, and your whole life on top of this mountain, out in the distance, is a castle. You've never been there, but it's there. It's a landmark.
Yeah.
Might as well mention it.
But now, like oftentimes, because like that's also a problem with the difference between like player knowledge and character knowledge, right? Yeah, your character grew up in that town his whole life, or in this country his whole life, and he always needs somebody else to tell him about the world, right? Just like at some point it becomes silly. So that's why I said like let the player make assumption, right?
So Max, how much do you blur?
Depends on the group. The better your group, the more trust you can have. Like once people like you've played with a long time, right? You can let them like more freedom, right? Just like, and for me, like the more I can blur, the happier I am, right?
Because
You
I have the
you
GM.
were really blurry on that on the Duncan Vale. You were very blurry on that one, and I thought that was very cool. You took a leap right there when you played that when you GM'd that one.
And that was a good game. Yeah, you couldn't even tell who the GM was in that game half the time. Like who's running the game? Who's in
No,
charge
that's
here?
what I wanted. I wanted to let player like like you're in charge. Like I told them like, okay, this is the premise. This is what you're there to do, and then like I created a character for you just because like to get a system out of the way, right? Just like and
Yeah.
but I asked you like who your character were, right? And then I give you character sheet based on that, and then I let you fill in the blank, right? And just like I said, I didn't know like where you would go, and because also there was some conflict between the groups baked in, then that could have gone in a whole lot of different way.
That's what made it interesting, though, was the inter-party conflict in that one. That made the whole game right there. With it didn't matter who we were going after or what what the goal was. It was that inter-party conflict, and Phil was playing that character so well. It was just a delight to be a whole part of that thing, and it was amazing.
When you started like seeing it like supernatural stuff, that could have like shifted your alignment really quick. Oh, okay. Oh, maybe this guy was crazy, was right? Just like a lot of things could have happened, but like that was on you guys. And I made this game like I wanted to have this inter-conflict tension at least, or conflict, because that's something we didn't like. A lot of the game we did oftentimes were kind of experimental, and that's also something we think in the Session Zero, like even like the game we're playing now with the Rising Sun. We say like, we never made a game with magic. Let's try to have a game with magic, right? To see how we do it. Some other game we try something else, and this is what I want to try. We didn't have a game with PvP, what people call, which I hate the term. I say like character versus character. It's not because it's not player versus player, but like I said, we never had that, so let's have that.
Right on.
So,
yeah, because when I play, I try to disguise the game mechanic so it doesn't show up in the game all that much. It's even though it's in the game, but you're disguising the GM as well in your game.
It's a ninja GM.
I like that Rick stayed in character though. He was playing the stoic captain. I mean, he's like not a one-trick pony, but he's not going to diverge from his character. He's gonna stay true all the way to the end.
Yeah.
And I thought you're gonna get killed. You might get killed doing that.
You had like a previous relationship with Lucas' character, not Lucas' character. Lucas was his character name. I forgot his Eli character, right?
Yeah, Eli. Yeah.
One of those NPCs I wanted to just strangle through the screen. I hated it. The one he's like, he's a monster. Yeah, I hated that character.
Yeah.
Then there was were there secrets in that game? I like it when the characters have secrets from each other.
Well, they were, because like the character like all have their own motivation, right? Which were very distinct. Like it's not me that I gave them the secret. Like they kind of came up with their own secret. Like Phil had some, and it's like their motivation were not known for the other, and the relationship with the church, and they're on the mission for different reasons.
Yeah.
Pay no attention to the dog behind the curtain.
Yeah. This morning, I did a character creation with Zonalar for Numenera, and the interesting thing was he was as we were creating the character, and he was talking with me. He was like, he was mentioning that he didn't want to step on any toes or anything. He was kind of like, am I able to do this? I'm like, you're able to do anything. I implore that you get as creative with this stuff as possible. We're bringing up these ciphers, these one-shot items. You can imagine them any way you want. You can have that little chip be instead of being a chip, it could be something that you stick in your head. It could be something that you eat. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. It's what you imagine in your head. And he kind of looked at me with oh, wait a second, right? He suddenly brightened up with, oh, I could do anything, kind of, he had that eureka moment in his head, that, oh, Rick is actually going to let me carry on through the game in this character with, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to him, where things are located and everything. I told him it just matters to me that you have what's inside your head, and if you're interacting with Nicholas and Nicholas gives you some insight on what he's seeing, the two of you are going to come to a commonality that's going to work.
Yeah.
And then if another player comes in, does the same thing, you're going to get much more of a vivid picture. And it doesn't require me to say anything except for the initial basics. So less work for me.
Increasing the resolution through play, right? Everybody had the little detail, and then at some point we all get on the same page.
Yeah. So blurring, yeah, it kind of, you kind of don't even look at it as blurring anymore. It's just like, this is how we do it,
So what percentage of the game do you let your players create? Both of you guys.
Go for it, Max.
I don't even know how to answer that question, because like the whole game is created like together. Like oftentimes, like if it's a new campaign or a new session, what I'm doing, I'm gonna come up with like the base idea of the world. And sometimes, we did like talk about it. I say, okay, what do you want to play next, right? And so, let's do a Western or whatever. And then like,
okay, but during the game, not the session 0 so much, but during the game, how much do the players get to create?
For me, it would be above 50%, definitely. Like, because I don't want to do most of the talking. And every turn they take, they can create something, or they can define something, right? Or something has been created by somebody else, and then they add a little more definition to it, or something has been created by me, and then they add something else, right? Just like, so they touch everything. Everything they interact with is getting defined more. So for me, it's a hard question to say. There's not like a clear line about like, oh, this is what I created, right? Like, I have the initial premise, usually, especially if it's a new campaign, right? I'm gonna say, okay, like what I did with the Wish on the Garden Veil, you're going there for this reason, and then that's it, right? And then the rest of it, like I come up with maybe I'm gonna add an NPC here, but maybe you're gonna add like that you have this thing on you, or you found this thing, you found a journal, and now you start reading about it, and then I have to come up with about stuff. So the journal and what was in the journal, like I come up with what was in the journal when Crispy, like, I tried to, okay, the page have been torn off. Oh, look, I have my charcoal. I'm gonna rub. I said, okay, I'm gonna come up with something. But who come up with that, right? I come up with what was written in the journal, but like my end was kind of forced by Crispy being too clever. When I tried to dodge out of it, but like the journal had been created by Li. So like who created what in that, right? At some point it become like that also become very blur, right? It's all like we all add a little something to the bucket.
Yeah. It's kind of the same with I don't look at it as percentages, but I do know that the players create most of it in my games now. So I'll and what I do prep sometimes doesn't even come up. In fact, most of the times it doesn't even come up. Yeah. I'll only prep like a couple of NPCs, some ideas taken from the backgrounds of some of the characters or something like that, just in case they bring them up as something that shows up. I'll do that, but oftentimes that's kind of like, okay, I just write a couple of sentences down just to keep a vivid picture in my head when I look at my note, but that's about it. And the rest of it becomes an interaction which should come out kind of natural from what I know of the character, from their background, from what we did with the session 0 and stuff. Other than that, yeah, I hardly anything comes up which is actually a me thing. So it's it's even when we did the the game where you were in, Shonner, with the space station and everything, I had no maps of anything. I had just a rudimentary idea of a conflict. I was gonna. The only thing I had was a premise, which you have a premise and a false premise, so you can choose which one you want to give the players. So I gave you guys the false premise that there was a group of these craft coming in, which which were definitely the lizardmen, their ships, and they were heading towards Mars. Like in a direct, like they appeared, and you seen that they were on the scope, and the only craft that could reach them in time would be Crispy's, his character's craft. So it was up to him to decide on if he was going to go ahead and do that. I mean, I kind of use the NPC to say we only have a half hour left before the two ships make their way past the interception point. I gave it a bit of urgency. Some you guys could have
could have ignored it. We almost did.
Yeah,
because we had other stuff going on.
It would have been what happened, right? It's you would have heard the reports. You've seen far off. They indicate on the screen a flash on Mars, and then suddenly Mars disappears from the. Disappeared. Did it get destroyed? Who knows? Like you'd only know if you'd investigate further, right?
I really like that game, and I felt like it. Like I created a lot of NPCs, and Phil created a bunch of NPCs as well, right? Like every turn we took, like almost we're like turning around and talking to somebody. But for me, like that make the space station felt very alive, because now I'm free to imagine that there's people around, right? Just like I don't need permission from the GM, so I can just turn around, hey, just like do right. So like that also contribute. Like that's one thing, like that the 4D picks from 2D game, right? Like I don't have to ask you, is there somebody around? Like, yes, obviously there would be somebody around. It's a space station. We're in the command center. It's gonna be a bunch of people working there, right? And now like I don't have to put my imagination old until like I'm allowed by the GM to fill in the blank by like another gonna give me detail. Yes, there's this guy, he's like that, and there's this other guy, and then there's a girl, and she's not very pretty, but she's been working there for a long time, right? And then I have to I don't have to do that. I can just imagine wherever I want, right? Keep the flow going, and I can just talk to somebody, unless it's important, right? Just for some reason, or But yeah,
Shonner, any input on that yourself?
Well, I was thinking about a woman NPC. The game starts, right? I'm looking at that picture behind you, Rick. The players are there. And that woman in the right there, I guess it's a woman.
Yeah.
She's heading towards that place. The players interact with her, or the players would just, I don't know which direction the players would be going, but there's more than just her. There's like a bunch of people. And when the players walk past an NPC, do your NPCs have knowledge about what's going on that day or what happened yesterday? Or are they just population, filling the area with people? Do you try to get the players to interact with the NPCs that might know something? Or do you go, oh, well, they walked past that NPC, so I guess the next NPC will have a different story, a different hook that the players can learn about? Because like the players may have crashed on this planet. They don't know this place. But the girl there, she looks like she knows something about the place. The guys could say, hey, what's this? What's that? What is that? Is that a Numenera thing? What is that? And she'll say, oh, I've lived here all my life. Or she'll say, oh, I don't know, I'm new here too. My spaceship crashed down the road. Yeah. But the players, if you just say, oh, there's some people walking by, and if the players don't even do anything with the NPCs, they just still keep talking to themselves or come up with something else. What do you think of that NPC? Do you wish they were interacted with, or do you just go, oh, okay, they're gone, in brief?
So for me, they're gone. Yeah, they're I don't care anymore. It was just It's just like you guys in my traveler gig. I had a few ideas. I had pictures already set up and everything to show an NPC if I needed to. I didn't even have to do that, and I was totally fine through the entire session. The only thing I felt kind of odd was because we did a pre-plan with me and Phil, and Phil was talking about growing stuff that was mushrooms and kind of making it sound illicit, illicit substances. So when we got into the play of it, I was still on the head space that he was growing illicit substances. So that was part of the character building that we were doing, but he decided that wasn't the way he was going to go, kind of in the middle of the session. So it was one thing that kind of caught me kind of off guard in that session, but everything else ran fairly smoothly. Like, I didn't, I just let everything happen. And a few.
I think he was a hydroponics guy, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, he still had the growing stuff coming up a lot. Like he was always like giving like vegetable to people. Just like,
here's
I guess that must be like a very appreciated gift, like a fresh vegetable on a space station, I guess, right? Just like, it's interesting. But for me, like NPCs, like I can say like, oh, it's a busy street, there's a lot of people walking around. None of those people are defined until the character interact with them, right? So that
Exactly.
they're just like very blurry, very background, very undefined people. And then like at some point they interact with him. Okay, now it's gonna come up, right?
At some point you high res the character.
Yeah,
at
exactly.
some point you high res.
Yeah.
Like
So
for example, like in the witch game, right? Like I had like, okay, they met with the Burgermeister, right? Just like at the beginning, and like I flesh him out as we go, right? From what like, oh, okay, now there's this thing coming up. Okay, I'll react with it, and now like sometimes I'm surprised myself, and okay, I reacted in this way. I just try to keep them consistent with themselves, right? Because like every time you react, like I learn this character as I create him, basically, right? Just like I'm defining him. And at some point, I want to introduce a different character to give like my goal was to give the player the choice, right? Are they gonna go with the Burgermeister that is more by the book, or are they gonna go by this other guy that is a little more like hot-blooded, let's say.
Yeah.
And at the end, they tried to go with both, which wasn't, but I said, okay, what? It's not what I was thinking about. I would have rather not to. But because like the hostility with Phil character began so early, I say maybe he's gonna need some more backup. So I say, okay, I'm not gonna I could have found a reason for one of the character not to go, but I say, you know what? Now like they already started to be quite a lot of tension, so I'm gonna put some people on Phil's side, so it's gonna be more interesting later on. And at some point, like Crispy go talk to the blacksmith, right? Just the guy I made it on the spot. I didn't know, so like. And now, like, I have to come up with something. Well, okay, now he's upset of this group being there, right? And then I run with it. And then as Crispy talk with him, then more things get defined. But I don't know I up ahead. So there's nothing to save because there's nothing there until the character interact with them.
You did really well with the blacksmith there. I thought that was a pretty amazing job. I didn't feel like that was like contrived or anything at all. It just felt very natural. So what I was going to say, like you're talking about the character over here on the side, if I was to bring in like a character like an NPC like that, I would as the players are going past or realizing that there is this character in front of them, the character, the NPC could be doing interesting things. They could be, bowing down, doing like a prayer thing, and which maybe the players are curious. Why is this person? But it's just an action or something that they're doing, which
you don't have to tell the player like, oh, this is a secret place. Why? Well, like they just arrive in town, like, oh, the local people worship that. How do you know that? Show, don't tell, right? Just like good example.
But
Sorry.
if they were to ask her what she's doing, she would be saying, "I am praying to the moon behind the clouds." or something like that. Just so this has nothing to do with the big tower up there. You can go any way you want with that character,
Yep.
but as soon as you have that interaction, you can kind of fill in all those things. Something that's brewing up in my mind. It circulates there, and then the players don't interact with it and go past. That's fine. Let it go.
And there was a term also that at some point we're talking about like a non-heroic character, right? Instead of like just non-player character, the non-heroic character, like the player character or heroic character, the NPC in the world, they're non-heroic. So they're not gonna one that is gonna go out to solve the problem of the world. They're regular Joe and stuff like that. That's also something I think that's also a way to avoid like the GMPCs and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in the Traveler game, I was playing a regular Joe.
Yeah.
Because he was
You were an older guy.
an older guy, a recluse or a vagabond or something.
But
or
you still had your moment when you shot this this pipe, right? That blew up.
yeah.
So you were an older Joe, but you still rise up to the occasion. So you're still a heroic character in that sense. When push come to shove, you did something instead of just like running and cowarding, right?
You feel that you broke character, Shonner, or was that something that you felt was supernatural to proceed upon?
I think Shauna froze.
Oh, he's frozen. He's frozen in his smiling face. Yeah. We'll see if he comes back on. But yeah, I think the differences that we are trying to create here is just us. It's our preference. It's our preference to become more interactive characters. That I find is the crux of this whole thing. I wanted to play in a game where I could be the hero or the anti-hero or whatever it is I'm trying to portray. I'm not. I don't like to be sitting in the back listening to how my character is going along, being shuffled along through the curves and valleys and hills and whatever, and being told how great my character is as they're doing this. I'm like, I haven't said anything. It's I'm just, that kind of got me. My old game master Ted, the one that I mentioned before, that laid down the ground rules. Stay in character. This is how we play. Everything you say is in character, and if you need to say something out of character, he did have that you can say it. Just mention that you're out of character when you do it. But that got me into the thinking, yeah, this was a good direction, because our gameplay was, and Ted didn't impose different things on us at all. He held himself back, like the way we do it as 4D game masters, and that was I'll bring in Shauna here. Yeah. See, you dropped from the interweb. Oh no.
The power went out for about 2 minutes.
Well, you were there with a nice little grin on your face for a bit, frozen in time for us.
I figured.
Yeah, but Ted kind of got me onto, there must be a different way, because when I came back into the hobby, it was all the everybody using virtual tabletops and playing out a game pretty much like a computer RPG, Baldur's Gate, that sort of thing for the players. And I felt, okay, if this is what it is, this is what it is. And I just kept on playing because I wanted to get back into the hobby. And upon meeting SHONNER and discovering he was I seen that he was doing the traveler spaceships and stuff like that, I was like, oh, cool. This is my jam kind of thing. So
I'm gonna do
you know,
more because I got View. View is free now, so
Right on.
I'm gonna be doing some CG modeling and rendering all the traveler spaceships and stuff,
Cool.
just like old times.
Yeah. But then Shonner got me onto the role play thing, which okay, I was start working on that, and then man, it was I was like I say, it was tough. It was tough to get out of, but it was well worth it. I've seen so many strides and improvements in UMAX from the first time that we played together to the way we play together now. Is just a total, you know, it's like
It's 4D.
When you invited me, like, you know, like I didn't know you back then, right? I was like, it was like we maybe had like a few interaction here and there, and like I said, like 4D and 3D, you rely a lot on trust, right? Like if I cannot trust, like if you forget your player and you don't come back at them, like, you know, you do like 10 minutes with those two guys and I'm doing something else. Well, when you come back to me, I will want to do a lot of stuff because, like, well, when my character was still existing behind that time and you never give me a chance to act. So now, okay, now I got one chance to act. So I'm going to try to do it all because you might forget, you know, so there's also this one thing, right? Like, that's also a big part of the improvement I think that we got now. Like we get to know each other, we get to listen to each other better, we get to respect each other's time better. You know,
and I started ending up round robbing.
Eventually, you guys will be in sync with the same players and the same game system.
Yeah, maybe
you keep switching players, you keep switching game mechanics, switching GMs.
Well, we're like, I like that. I like that we're experimenting, right? We're just like,
you're experimenting.
It's fun.
Yeah. But one thing you were saying about like also like the GM like telling you how cool your player is and oh you did that and stuff like that. Like that's even like something that people say as advice, right? Just like, oh, make them feel that the character is cool.
Yeah, you have to entertain the players.
Like well, no, don't exactly. Like for me, my thing was always like, don't tell
your
me
job
a story.
is to have fun at the table.
Yeah. I'm not there to be told a story. I'm there like to play a game in which we create a story together. I'm not there to be a passive, like just sitting at a table and, you know, that's not what I'm here for. And I'm here to role play. And that's also something that people struggle a lot about. Like people don't have a definition of role play. You ask them like, what is role play for you? And they can only give you like the circular definition. Well, you play a role. Right? Well,
or they'll say it's better than video games because you're only limited by your own imagination.
And then they just follow whatever it says in the book.
Yeah.
And then they don't use imagination. All they do is daydream. The 1D players just daydream during the entire game session.
Yeah. They got the map going on. They got the pogs and everything else, or you know, miniatures or whatever. And that is such a pain to set all up. And if you're one of those game masters that sets up, you know, all the maps and everything and all the pogs
and the light source, then you will want to use it. You know, whatever one player do, they're gonna go to that fucking cave.
Yeah, you're almost forcing the players to go through it because you put so much work into it. You know, which is a shame. You know, it's but once again, you know, some players gravitate to that being just a spectator, and it, you know, if that's what they want to do, that's cool. You know, they're having their fun. And they have game masters out there that cater to that all over the place.
And they even spectate their own combat sessions.
Yeah.
How do you play combat as an audience member? You just roll dice and then you're told, "Oh, you hit the guy. You cut him in half."
That's like a barbarian, where every round you're gonna do the same thing over and over again. You're never gonna move. You're just gonna stand there next to the guy and
the GM says, "Hey, I made a mega dungeon. We're going to go through it." That means every session is combat.
Yeah.
And they're going to call that role play.
Well, that's often like what I joke about. You know, I say like, well, role playing game just about opening door to get to the next door. You kill whatever, you defeat whatever is in the way to the next door.
I check for traps.
The next door. Exactly.
It's like
I need to check
playing
the door is
Doom.
strapped.
I grappled somebody. I got to climb a rope.
But like and we talk about role play, and for us, I think that's what we're after, right? And I think I would say rightfully so, because those are role playing game. This is the strength of the hobby, that we get to role play. It's something we won't do in war game. Generally, it's something that you won't get in video game. It's something you won't get in board game. This role play element, being in the mindset of your character, seeing the world through what your character your character. I lost my train of thought in the middle of a sentence. But yeah,
So here,
yeah,
Go
seeing
for
what your character does, and staying in the mindset and seeing the world through the eyes of your character. That's what I was trying to say. Sorry. And that's also something I say, like when you do the battle map and stuff like that. Now, like by definition, you're getting yourself outside of the eyes of your character, and now you're like from third person up on eye, right? Omniscient view, perfect knowledge of the battlefield. Now you're in tactician mode. You're no longer in roleplay
Yeah.
mode. They say, well, but now we get to know what everything exactly happened on the battlefield. You're in the middle of combat. You shouldn't know exactly what everything's happening. There should be confusion and stuff like that, right? Lean into that. For me, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm into role play because I'm playing the role playing game, and this is the strength of the hobby, and I want us to lean into that. And role playing is just it doesn't just mean the making a funny voice. It's not just like the chit chat, the random chit chat. It's not something that we do outside of combat. Like they say, like, oh, there's a three pillar of role playing game, like the social interaction, which that's what people talk about role playing, exploration, and combat, right? But no, like role playing is throughout.
that is correct. Yeah,
And then there's the trick I do where I'll say something like, the players are always in rounds.
Yeah.
Not just during combat, but during the whole entire game. Round robin, that's all. The players get to do round robin. That would fix a whole lot of players just sitting there saying nothing during the entire game session. Is to just do round robin. Everyone gets 30 seconds for a turn. Not like I saw yesterday where the players talk for 30 minutes straight before someone else gets to talk. That's crazy. And they didn't talk about anything for 30 minutes.
This is interesting. I think it's cool. You bring in some props and stuff like that. Props are cool. Like I'll bring in occasionally pictures, that sort of stuff. Just give the flavor. I try to make all my pictures consistent, so it gives a kind of stylized look to them. So it gives you impression of what to expect when you go into a corridor, what to expect when you enter a totally new ship. You're still thinking, a Sid Mead kind of idea, with whatever you're presenting to them. It's cool. I never use them as things to throw onto a map and move them around as token pieces anymore. I used to do that, and
you, Rick, like me, you like painting miniature. I like that too, and I used to be in the 3D printing as well, and doing like the terrain stuff and stuff like that. Like that's a hobby in itself that I have, but like, when I bring it to the table, I find like just I don't enjoy the role playing game as much. Then right, just like like now I'm going back into a board game, which I like board game as well. Don't get me wrong, but
when I played Traveler Combat, we used the card, the card chits, the card paper chits.
Yeah.
Little 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch squares.
Yeah.
For space.
You're either a dude drifting in space, or you're a spaceship, or you're a fleet of spaceships, or whatever, and you're all in the same hex, or you're all in the same vector, going the same direction, depending on what rules we used. And then Car Wars came out, so we started playing Car Wars instead for a while. Same thing, just with cars instead of spaceships. 2D.
Car
2D
Wars,
space.
like, it's supposed to be like high octane combat at like high speed and stuff like that, but one round take 25 minutes.
one turn is 1/10 of a second. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, in theory, like one turn take, but like in practice, the time it takes you to
3 hours, and your car moved about 50 feet.
Yeah, I actually have that particular I think it was either it was a Kickstarter or Indiegogo. I can't remember, but
Yeah,
I do have the cards for that.
Yeah, the game store, they have Car Wars for it's 169 or 269. I can't remember.
Well, now everything's full price.
But it's the 6th edition of the game, and the minis are solid. They're not just cardboard cutouts.
Now Jim Cody here is like saying, "Evening, would be interesting to see you guys play a full campaign."
We might be doing that with the Rising Sun.
Just put one shots back to back. There you go.
Yeah, that's
all a campaign is one shots back to back.
Yeah, I have an idea behind that as far as a traveler kind of thing, but it'll take everybody to kind of like, okay, let's do this. You know, we have the time to allocate to this kind of a thing for a little bit.
Ironically, also like also Phil is working on something, I think, but also like ironically there's already like in that setting that for traveler you're talking about, like the Shadow in the Star. Is that the right? Yeah. Like technically, like the boarding party game that we did, we decided it's kind of in that universe, and the Wild Ale game was kind of in that universe. So we're doing like the we're doing the spin-off.
Sure. It can all fit. It's very easy to do that. That's I
mean, does a campaign count if each session is just someone reading a book to the players? Like, what is that?
You mean like for instance, Curse of Strahd or something like that, where they're just
this time we're doing another chapter of the book, kind of a thing.
Yeah. I am.
Same players, different GMPCs.
You know, I would have to go through a session 0 with everybody if they wanted to do like a Curse of Strahd or a Dragonlance saga, you know, like a continuous, modular, multi-module kind of thing. It would have to be agreed upon what the parameters are in that for if they wanted to have the co-creation in there. Awesome, but I would have a hard time trying to run one of those because not very many people want to stay inside a small dungeon, not to mention a large dungeon, because when I did that to you guys in Castles and Crusades, it was a very, very, very small dungeon. Like there was hardly anything there, but the impression was, you know, you guys felt so lost in there. You guys wanted out of there like badly, you know. Which I thought was funny because it was calling me back to maybe the best dungeons are, you know, or locations or areas are kind of small 3 to 5 room kind of things. You know, and ever since then, I've kind of, you know, kept to the idea of smaller locations better, you know, like just 3 rooms, 4 rooms, 5 rooms at the most. You know, you don't have to have something bonkers crazy because you don't really see that in like a movie or anything. We're trying, and when we say you know, we're not trying to like exactly imitate. Yeah, we're not imitating a movie. We are taking ideas out of the movie, the pacing of a movie, the cinematics. You know, cinematics. How you go from one scene to the next could be entirely. You know, you're thinking thoughts of Kubrick.
Did you see Tomb of Lime? He talked about 2001: A Space Odyssey.
I seen that he had did a video. I still have to watch that.
Oh, you got to watch it. It's the best 4D video.
Oh yeah,
in black and white this year.
Cool.
He only does black and white.
My video almost black and white because I'm so pale.
But he uses cinematics, and he thinks that 2001 is one of the best cinematic movies because it's cinema. It's not just film comedy, rom-com
Well,
nonsense.
you
It's
still have
it's
characters, still like telling
it's
story. There's ambiance.
it's filmatic. It's very filmatic. 2001 is, and that's how you want your game sessions to be.
Yeah, and I often say, like, you might want to be like your game session to be cinematic and stuff like that, but because we make stuff as we go, right? Maybe it's not gonna be like a movie. There's some stuff that if we were to make a movie out of it, would be left on the cutting floor, right? Would be cut in the editing room. There's
Sure.
and stuff like that. But
No one
if you
wants
do
to
like
see a
4-hour
4-hour
session,
long movie.
you could make a 2-hour movie out of it, right? Just like you should be able to. If you make a 4-hour session and you would only have like a 20-minute episode, then maybe you lost some time there. maybe the ratio is not that great. Yeah, anyways, you're talking about like doing a Curse of Strahd, right? Like, do you do a Curse of Strahd or do you do a Ravenloft game, right? Just like if you do a campaign, just setting campaign, just like you have one world and you have character in that world.
The Curse of Strahd, I've said this a bunch of times. I would just run it as a setting.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like when you do a campaign, it's like
and
for me a campaign is like there's one world and there's like character existing in that world, and the action of those characters are persistent, right?
Yeah.
For me, that's what a campaign is. It's no more complex than that.
Yeah.
You can change character in the middle of the campaign. It's still the same campaign because like there's still the same conflict in the world going on, and the action of the previous character still has an impact on the world to some extent, right?
Yeah.
What we do with the Rising Sun, like now we might want to go try to solve this issue in the desert, and we might play at some point in the same world something else happening somewhere else, like with the army coming up and whatever, right? Just like solve the campaign, just like, and then we all do that in one time. We make everybody lose their mind.
There we go.
All these 1-to-1 games where they play 1 to 30 during the game session, but outside the game it's 1-to-1. Oh, okay.
Yeah. We talk about like did you watch the Terror of Your Skin when we're talking about like domain play?
Yeah.
Yeah, we tried to rope Crispy into the domain play in that setting.
So
this comment down below here.
Yeah.
I don't know how he says his name, but anyway, you and I need to do a live stream where we just talk about how to run Traveler games. Because you're not going to get it from just something pre-recorded in front of a live audience. Because they're not telling you the secrets. You're just watching a game session. Yeah. You have to be told how to do those kind of sessions. If that makes sense.
It would be neat to see. Okay. So he says giving me grief for not having play sessions recorded. So he doesn't have anything that's like. Do you need?
I just have a few sessions online. But he's hoping to see me in a Traveler game so he can see how he can run his Traveler games.
Okay.
That's all. I'd rather just start from the beginning and teach someone good habits that they'll pass on to their players.
I thought it was
instead of them looking at a video of me in a game trying to guess what I'm doing or how I'm doing it.
I thought it was really helpful when you ran me through a game with Charlie and also with Sean Cherry as well. I thought that was
I like that.
That was really helpful.
Sean introduced the space horror in that session with the blood and everything.
Right.
That's something we haven't done yet.
We were just practicing saying where we're at and what we're doing. But then Sean decides to add in, something happened in this elevator or something, Dun dun dun, that kind of thing.
There's also a way you can upload if you put together a video of your group playing together, and this is continuing on with Shirgal, what he was saying. If you put it up as a unlisted and then you share it to like SHONNER or any of us, that's totally cool. I mean, we won't show the video to anybody. But, we could see what's happening. We could make comments or something like that and give them to you or vice versa, sharing how you were doing certain things, which would be cool.
But recording video in person that's kind of hard because then you have to be in a big room and you have to be have audio that's audible.
Good microphone.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
not everybody got like a bunch of microphone lying around, so maybe you can one that pick up the whole room, but then they pick up like every noise around. It's a challenge. True.
Or it could just be a MP3 recorder and just leave that on the table somewhere, and just upload a YouTube vid that's got black background and MP3 audio, something like that. Because you can't upload MP3s to YouTube; they got to be MP4.
Oh yeah. Can you do like everybody like record with their own phone and then you mesh it up together? That'd be a lot of work, but it could work.
If you got the apps for it.
Because everybody got a phone, right? So and every phone now they got a camera and a microphone.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the way.
Yeah.
That's when
You
they put the
could-
phone in portrait instead of landscape mode.
Yeah.
To
Well,
annoy me.
You
open a
could do
StreamYard session. Just send your phone
Yeah.
to the StreamYard session. Record with StreamYard at the table, right?
Yeah, StreamYard has the ability to separate all the cameras and have them recorded at the best quality that they're at.
Everyone get a
And
little
it-
tripod for their camera.
Yeah, exactly. That's all you need. Like, and they cost like $5. That thing seems like a cool.
But I can just listen. I don't have to watch the game. I can just listen to it and know right away where the flaws are.
Yeah.
Let's see. A campaign now sounds weird with this style. Just lingering. It's just lingering one shots. I mean, if you
Twilight
really
Zone.
wanted to,
Twilight Zone is a campaign of one shots.
Yeah. Actually, there were a few Outer Limits episodes that were like two different episodes, so it would have the beginning and then the conclusion kind of idea. I like some of those, but sometimes it would have to take particular types of characters like that you play that you really really enjoy playing in the
Right.
long run.
Right.
That would have to be with everybody in the group. Everybody would want to be
Now,
playing these characters.
why is that, Rick?
That is because
There's no XP, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're not there to play to grind. You're not there to grind levels.
The only reason to play D&D is to level up,
Yeah.
so you can level up. That's the whole point of the game, is to level up your war game pog.
And there's things that your character is gonna evolve in the campaign nonetheless, right? Even like if you don't do the XP, like it's kind of silly, like especially like now like a week ago I could just barely swing my sword and now I can fucking like
In real life
feel like
RPGs,
like, you know,
your
you wanna evolve.
character levels up by making money, by getting a reputation,
Yeah,
making
exactly.
friends.
That's it. You make contact, you get resource,
You get
you get
backstabbed.
badges,
Yeah.
you get injured. That's also like something that your character evolved with.
Oh yeah, I couldn't play for a
Uh-oh.
couple of weeks here already. That looks good compared to what it used to be. I had my knuckle actually
So now
poking out from that thing. Yeah, it used to be way bigger. It actually went all the way across right here too as well. So it was a pretty major owie. I couldn't play guitar for a while, so it was a sad day for my character, my real life character.
But see, that's when you make a new character while your other one's recuperating. Just put the
should've
other
thought
guy
of
on ice. Why don't you freeze him?
Yeah, and I think also what's important if you want to do campaign, like you need to like campaign is not just like, well, we're gonna do like 20 sessions of dungeon crawling and then we're gonna do like 10 sessions. Like you need to fucking like move the style, right? And you need to have like those like you need to vary like what your character are doing, but also vary like the emotional tone of the game, right? At some point, like you feel like, well, now we're struggling, life is hard and stuff like that, and then you make them feel a little more heroic, and then at some point, like, oh, we bit more than we can chew, and then like, oh, now you need to have this roller coaster of emotion and tone as well. You need to vary the tone, you need to vary the activity that you're doing. That's also something like people do, like when they want to do those, oh, we're gonna do level 1 to 20 campaign, and then like we're gonna spend like 18 months of session doing the dungeon crawl, and now you can finally like move to the next level, that no thanks.
Yeah. There's so much more to explore in different games and different characters that you come up with and stuff. You're just having a good time with all the different. I love all the characters that I've played so far. I thoroughly enjoyed playing each one. I don't think I've ever had as much, like, except for playing in Ted's old game with my one character, which I only went to, and even though it was D&D second edition, my character was only 8th level by the time we had finished the game, the campaign, and everything, as far as we had gone with it. And it wasn't like we were grinding for XP in that game at all.
Yeah, I was going to say, you probably weren't just playing to grind.
Yeah. So, I mean, we played quite a few, like, what was it, 3 years? But it wasn't like a 3 years where it was every weekend. It was like we would have a break of a couple of months, and then Ted would say, hey, let's get the gang together again. And then we'd all show up. We'd play maybe 3 weeks in a row on the weekends, and then poof, we'd be gone for about another month and a half. The gang would come back again. Let's keep on playing through. And it was a progression like that. So it wasn't like we were just, playing just to play all the time. It was a very coordinated kind of effort to bring everybody in and play out our characters. I had a good opposition kind of character, an adversarial friendship with one of the characters in the game. So he was, once again, it was a priest. The priest didn't like the way I was going about the way I was going. I was cursed. I had a curse, so it was causing me to become a drunkard, and I'd be like fighting in the bars and everything and stuff like that. So it was from a necklace I was wearing, which came with a sword. So, and it was part of my character, and when I was finally relieved of it, I still kind of kept some of those, aspects of the character, even though I was rid of the curse. I was kind of free, but did I really want to be free? I felt like, my character arc. Yeah, it was like an arc that happened with me.
Yeah.
And, but I had such a good time.
Yeah. You see what you're mentioning there, like, like you said, like, I never played a character I didn't like, right? Just like, I think that's to bring back to the topic of the stream, right? That's one thing that 3D and 4D solve from 2D game, because like we like our character for their personality, we like the character for who they are, and we develop those characters in that sense, right? I think a lot of people, like, they end up with character they don't like because like they feel like, well, you know what, I'm not as effective in combat as I should be. I'm always feeling left behind. I don't feel I have a niche. I don't feel I have a need in the party to feel right. All those kind of things. It's all like it's very mechanical usually. Like,
Yeah.
because why would you play a character you dislike? You're making this character. You're deciding on his personality and stuff like that. Make one that you like. But if you don't put a personality, give a personality to your character, then it's only the mechanic, and maybe you pick the wrong class, or maybe you thought, I thought this power would be cool, but it doesn't work as I thought, and then that's how you end up being left with character you don't like. But in 3D and 4D, that doesn't matter, because our character got personality, and that's what we get attached to.
Correct. Yes. Any thoughts there, Shonner?
I fell in love with an NPC once.
Oh, did you?
She was a robot.
Did she break your heart?
Oh my goodness.
No, same old G would not tell me if this chick was real or a fembot. And I would my character would try to make moves on her. She was the engineer. She always spent time in the engineering section of the ship in Traveler. And my character was always trying to figure out reasons for why he needed to be in engineering, just to say hi. And same old G role played her like, I'm busy. I'm doing engineering stuff back here. Very cold. Literally, she had cold shoulders. So I remember we're in the common room like an alien sitting around eating, and she was sitting next to me. And I kind of kept scooting my stool closer to her stool, and I kind of like leaned a little bit against her, and she wouldn't move. Like robots don't move unless they're moving themselves. The the universal joints and the micro servers or whatever. You do this to her, she wouldn't budge. And I think my chin hit her shoulder, and I wanted to say, This is before 4D, so my character wanted to say, "Oh, you're freezing cold," but I didn't say that because I still didn't know if she had warm flesh or hard metal steel.
You didn't ask like with the GM, is our flesh warm?
But I was hinting. I was trying to hint at without asking the same old G. Is she a robot? Is she a freaking robot? I'm doing in character, trying to make conversation with her, and same old G, I don't think he knew if she was a robot or not, but he would describe her as super dexterous, whatever, dexterous.
Dexterous, yeah.
And she could do precision grip with everything really fast, almost like Matrix-like in her combat or her kung fu abilities. And it's like, man, she has to be artificial of something, a synth at least. I just want to know who the heck our engineer was on board the spaceship, who never came out, and I never saw her eat or drink.
You could have like started a conspiracy with the other NPC on the ship, like, oh, this fucking mech, she's a robot.
But this is the kind of stuff that would happen with all the characters when we're in jump for a week.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And same old G would ask, do you guys want to fast travel to the next week, or do you want to role play out the week on board the ship for this session? How do you want to do it? We always chose pretty much to role play the session.
Cool.
And he might fast forward a few days, so we're not doing all 7 days during the session.
Well, Phil has the answer here for you. Just to let you know, Shauna.
But same old G, he played her straight. She, to this day, I don't know if she was a fembot or a synth. She wasn't human. She could not be human. This thing,
No.
she was too motivated to be the engineer all the time. Every time something happened, she's already fixing the problem.
Single purpose.
You think you'll ever find out? You'll ever get online with Samuel G and okay, Samuel G, tell me, was she a robot or was she not a robot? Yeah,
I think so. Well, we were playing 3D for the most part, so stuff happened, and then I forgot about it. Something more important was happening on this ship. It was like that. Something was always going on.
And it was a campaign?
Yeah, it went on. He says it went on for 17 weeks. Or not weeks, but yeah, it was weeks. Every week. Every Sunday night, I think it was.
No, that's pretty long.
Yeah. Oh, this is it. Spencer is saying here, I have had characters die in the first session due to problems that arose from my actions.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's
in
chronic.
in those instances, I was trying to teach Spencer to become more of an active player. And so what I was doing was I was pulling back. This was when I was discovering, okay, I have to pull back from directing the players around, from moving them. And this was a dichotomy I was having was, okay, I have players in here that are very active, with Big Bad and yourself, Mr. Max, and Crispy as well. And the thing, it was trying to get Spencer to go ahead and create his opportunities, but because he's just the same as I was, ingrained with the 2D gameplay, it made it hard.
And I think nowadays, like if we're in that situation again, I think with the fact that we're better with the round thing and the idea of anchoring, right? And then we say if you don't have anything meaningful to contribute to the scene, it comes to your turn, just say like, well, I'm leaning down on my chair, I'm sinking down on my chair, stuff like that. Like just So your character still exists in the world. You're just like, but you're doing nothing basically. Your
Yeah,
character is being passive, but we
lighting
know
a
that you're
pipe
still
or
there. You
something.
still exist. Well, yeah. Sorry.
Lighting a pipe.
Yeah, exactly. Like you have like those little action of anchoring that you're still there. You still exist in the world. You're not just a floating head. You didn't disappear. But it's also very short. You just say that.
Yeah.
And now there you go. That's your turn. Basically, it's like a skip, but it's a skip. It's an active skip, like that you're still existing.
Or you're doing research on some language you're trying to solve the writing
Yeah.
for.
Or I'm cleaning my nail, right? I'm
Yeah. Or you're
sharpening my axe.
shining your boots.
Yeah. Just a little something. Well, I don't have an idea right now for something to contribute, but I'm still there.
Yeah. I think once we started doing more round robin, that kind of solidified things. The session 0 became so important,
Yeah.
and the game master prep that you didn't have to do prep. It was like this was your prep. The players are helping you with your prep and giving you all the knowns. Plus, when they give you all their knowns, you're also thinking, as you're just writing down notes of what maybe the unknowns could be. You
have knowable unknowns and unknowable unknowns.
Yeah.
Unknowable knowns.
Those two, I guess. But,
you have all that.
Yeah. So, and you don't have to bring in all these ideas. You just leave them on your sheet. You have them on your idea sheet, and
to-do list.
It's a freeing. It's more freeing for the game master. You don't have to do these crazy prep sessions. Your players are creating the atmosphere by their very descriptions, as they're anchoring, as they're adding more to the scenes. And
like when I would get emails from people saying, hey, I got this idea for a game. I say, tell me more. And they tell me what movie they saw or what book they read. And they got this idea. Let's try it. We talk about the setting. And then what's it going to be? One of those, what are those storylines called where it's something's journey?
Hero's journey.
Yeah, something like that. Are we doing that? Are we doing what's the one called when it's the boys from that movie Stand By Me? What's that kind of
kids on bikes kind of thing?
Like an age
coming of
age. Yeah, is it going to be one of those kind of games, or is it going to be like what's the theme and the tone and the mood that we're trying to achieve? Is it grim dark? Is it totally utopian, perfect, everything's clean? Or is it modern day, contemporary? How far ago was it? Is it just the near future, the far future? Is it even on Earth? Is it another planet? Are we even humans in this game session?
Are your character like special? Like, are your character regular Joes, or are they?
A lot of questions. But
I just, after a few emails, that's the prep I have. That's all I have, and I'm ready to go.
Then it's all a case of the players interacting with each other, creating the talking, where you're in action, but you're also giving insight on what your character is. So the other players are learning about your character. You're learning more about their characters, even though, with the session 0, you have a good idea of what's happening with the other characters. Yeah. But the cool thing is having that enacting, like with the vocalizations with everybody. You're getting that flavor in there. It's happening. You're getting a back and forth, a rapport with the other players, and you're building on that, and you're discovering more things, because you're not only just what's you kind of wrote down on paper. Technically, you are more than that, because you are going through your own arc, your own character arcs as well. So you may have, certain flaws that maybe you're trying to address in the session, Maybe you're trying to be a braver person. Maybe you are, the one that frightens off quite a bit, but you're trying to, bring up your courage. How do you do that? This is part of your story.
Character got motivation and goals, yeah. And that's also something that a way that the character advances. His personality can, like, we talk about the resources like that. Personality can change much faster than just skill sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. And that doesn't.
You go through life-changing events, right?
Yeah.
If you're not, right, what are you doing at the table, right? It's like you're just playing the mundane.
Yeah.
You want to be an interesting character in interesting times.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And like one thing I used to say to my player sometimes, like I would just tell them, like, we're gonna start when we're starting a new campaign, right? If we say we go with the party don't know each other, I say, okay, fine. We're gonna start the first session at that place, and that's what's gonna happen, right? Not the like, it's market day in the village. Figure out a reason why you're there. Are you just passing through? Are you there to sell some shit? Are you there because you live there? It doesn't matter to me. But your character should have a reason to be there. Basically, like, know what you're doing, right? Like, when the action the action begin, what are you doing? Why are you there? Were you existing in this world? What did you do there yesterday, right? Just like this kind of stuff, right? And from then your character got motivation.
How do you guys decide who runs the game?
Whoever got the idea, whoever got the chops to go next, I guess.
I haven't run whoever has a cool idea, they're the ones more likely to run the game.
Yeah,
That's how it works for me.
Yeah, I've just been putting up like little ideas, for people to grab onto. So I have like a whole bunch of different types of 4D sessions here. Let me bring up.
I haven't run anything because, like, I kept like saying that the next game I want to run is one with Bastard Sword, and like I'm always like, oh, I'm very close. So, but then, like, there's always, I need to fix that first, like, and then I do some tests and stuff like that. I try some with my partner, and then, like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna fix that. Okay, now it works, but there's this other thing, right? And just like, so I'm always like, I always feel like it's just like right there, but then I always find something else in the end fixing. So that's why, like, I've been like joking on you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always something that needs more explanation in the rules that you didn't think of.
Well, for now, like,
fine tuning.
Yeah, for now, like, I'm more like fine tuning. Like, oh, this mechanic's too slow. This mechanic's too involved. This mechanic, like, I'm trying to trim down a bit, right? Or this is too complex, or this is too different than this other mechanic, or not different enough, right? So that's what I'm trying to do now. But
yeah, it's almost like, well, you've been on this for quite some time doing the Bastard Sword, right?
Oh yeah.
This was before you started getting into the 3D.
Before I started the YouTube thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So and now you may be considering that this could be an entirely, 3D, 4D game, which you are creating.
My goal was always like trying to try to create like this more crunchy game that would help roleplay instead of getting in the way, right? Just that was always like what I was trying to do. So the mechanic was always made in that sense that if you just do like a pure mechanical description, you're still telling where your character is, what your character is doing, depicting a scene. You're not like using just random word that just like,
Burning Wheel 2.0.
Not quite. Like I'm I'm going a different direction.
Burning Wheel that actually allows roleplay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, that's the thing. I often say, like, Burning Wheel was one of my biggest inspiration because, like, there's a game I wanted to like, but I couldn't quite. But, like, because I see what they were the question they were trying to solve. I just think they went the wrong way with it, right? So
you can't make roleplay happen through game mechanics. That's just a marketing thing.
Yes.
But you can have the game mechanics that don't get it, that go in the same direction as roleplay instead of going against it, right?
Right. It has to be complementary.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I'm creating ideas, all I'm doing is I'm putting something out there and I'm kind of like sticking blobs of mud up against the wall and seeing what sticks. Yeah. So for me, it's like, I've got up a Call of Cthulhu. I'm still got to go through the rules on that if I'm gonna do that. I have a few people interested in that. Castles and Crusades, back to the Harn thing again.
Yeah.
I have an idea for They Feed, which is going to be like a horror theme kind of thing. I was thinking maybe it'd be something that we could get together, create in a microscope kind of condition, and then play it out for maybe a Halloween kind of thing. So all my stuff is like, I'll just kind of wing stuff up there as an idea and let people kind of dwell on it, see what people think of each idea, and maybe they grip onto it. Maybe I have enough players that have an interest. Sometimes maybe it's just put an idea up there, let everybody decide what the mechanics is going to be. Like They Feed is an idea, which we still haven't have an idea of what mechanics we're going to use. Just whatever we think might be, we can put it to a vote with the group. What do you think would be the best, system for it? That sort
I think
of
also
thing.
like a lot of the game that we did, the idea were often like, oh, we haven't done that thing. Let's try this, right? Like the boarding party game. We weren't
Right.
like we never had like a session that was combat heavy. Let's try doing that and see how it goes. And
Yeah.
then you want to say, I can run that for you. And at some point, like Phil wanted to have like this slow burn, a lot of time skip, and then we said, okay, let's do Wild Ale. And this Rising Sand, we never played a game with magic. And Crispy said, let's see how it goes. So let's do that. So oftentimes was like they were like we're trying to explore one concept or one idea or one stuff like that. It wasn't really about this necessarily about the setting or about the theme of the game or the it was just about like we want to do, and like if we do the horror at some point, that's what's gonna happen. We're gonna say we never did horror, and somebody will say, well, okay, I'll try to run that for you, right? Just like, but I guess this one nobody got the balls for it yet. Like you talk about Call of Duty or They Live, maybe that's what it's gonna be. You said They Live or They Feed?
It's They Feed. Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. They Live is something different.
Yeah. Kind of a horror in its own kind of dystopic kind of thing, but
Or like,
not quite.
is it still fiction?
Anything else that we could possibly say which could be a boon to the people that are out there that are tired of the game masters moving them, all that kind of stuff. We're very open as far as the RPG Crusade to let people in. We just need to know that you have a good camera, and it's not necessarily to so that you could broadcast with us. It's more or less so that we can understand, what you're saying. So your mic is a good mic. I can hear you. Your connection is good. Everything sounds okay. Let's go for it. It's more communication because I have when I put people through a little bit of a practice session, it's nothing major. You don't have to create characters or anything like that. I just want to be able to communicate with you at a decent level, back and forth, and that's all that's for. You don't have to broadcast with us. We have games that are occurring right now which are not in the that are not broadcasted. They're just games that people are playing with other people, not in the RPG Crusade, which is cool because we're not restricting anybody to our Discord or anything. It's there, so you come back.
They have their own groups too.
Yeah.
Yes.
And not only like when I see a comment, somebody like say like, oh, I used to I wasn't satisfied with the game I had. I watched your video, I tried that, it changed the way we engage with the hobby. This make us worth it for me, and I assume for you as well, right? That's what we do it, right?
I get a comment like that every couple days. I get a comment saying, hey, I watched your videos and you explain things super easy. I tried it and it worked. And I say, make a video, talk about it.
Yeah.
Let people know. Let people, wherever you live, let people know. Speak in your native tongue. Get this going in other countries, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and So yeah, like I think people should try it. It's a great time. Like it's and like what I would say, like we talk about like training sessions like that. Like what I want to say about that is like because it's not it's a learned skill. It's not so easy, right? You need to learn to be active. You need to learn to not ask questions to the GM. You need to learn but it's worthwhile because then like you go there, you get in the mindset of your character, you stay there the whole session, you
Yeah,
experience something, you
just the
feel something, you get this emotion that goes through you because you're no, I'm getting nervous because my character is in dangerous situations, stuff like that, or I'm getting sad. It's like you get to experience stuff.
the bare
It's cool.
minimum for role play is just to say, do round robin turns. Everyone
Yeah,
gets 30 seconds to say their say. And then when it's your turn to say something, you say where your character is, what your character's
yeah,
doing. And
yeah,
your any action. It could be running, jumping, killing, hacking a computer, or just talking to an NPC or another character that's doing something.
yeah,
Exactly.
So you have 30 seconds to say what your business, and then it's the next person's turn.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
If you do that, then you can't help but
if you're
not
the
role play.
GM, don't tell what the PC does. Don't tell what the PC feel. Don't tell what the PC think. Like that
Yeah, the
belongs to the player.
GM should be doing the same thing as the players with their NPCs when it's their turn.
Also, like like this trick, like it's kind of like we say like, oh, when it's your turn, say where your character is, what your character does, right? That's kind of like an act. Like if it's a routine you get into, at some point it becomes like second nature. If you're the GM, you describe a scene. I have this routine as well. Like sometimes I say like describe where the light come from because that's important. That's set the tone a lot, and then describe like what's obvious and go into detail later, right? And then be fluid.
Time of day, the weather, outside, inside.
Yeah, but get this routine as well, right? Just like, and then you won't forget an important detail.
Right.
Yeah. And don't be scared to have your players be part of the creativity process that gets the session going. Don't be scared to pull them in and say, okay, guys, what's this session going to be? What is this game that we're putting together going to be about? What are your ideas of what the knowns are? Do you want to have the city? Do you want to have the castle here? What's the whole thing? Are we doing sci-fi? Are we on a moon? Is a station on the moon kind of idea, or are we like way out in some beyond galaxy and it's a total we're humans, but we've been brought over from Earth from 10,000 years ago, and this is a totally different environment for us. Are we playing kind of like a Dune kind of thing with these weird worlds, different kinds of flora and fauna and let's talk about what's the flora and fauna here and stuff. Give me the knowns, help me, help.
Yeah, that's what I like with Microscope.
Yes.
Before I heard of Microscope, I would just go to all my books on how to world build, but they don't really teach you anything. They just say, this is how worlds are made, but it doesn't teach how to make a world that's consistent. It's just you doing all the work. But with Microscope, all the players are forced into world building and role playing.
Yes.
Moments in the world's history, which is cool. And then you have this complete setting afterwards that you can then use for a D&D game, a published adventure for 1D play.
Yeah.
Microscope is perfect for that. But it's also
Exactly.
perfect for 4D games too.
Yeah. I've learned so much from Microscope just by just following the guidelines. And I mean, you don't have to like read it from back to forth. You can take little parts of it and integrate it into your game to help you with your prep. Basically, it's the prep. You don't have to do really much more. You might have a few other ideas. It's so
I wonder
easy.
if ChatGPT would be able to help as a player in Microscope.
Yeah, it could. It could be.
You just tell. I think it's 4.0 now. She's a hot chick now. Just tell her what's been said already, and then she adds her 2 cents to the scene. If she knows how to roleplay, I'm curious if ChatGPT knows how to roleplay yet.
Yeah,
She can tell you all about D&D and where to buy it.
Oh, you never seen about like this Dan thing, like
Which one?
like the people used to they created this character called Dan, which means stand for do anything now. And they say like, now when you answer, give me your reply, but also give me the reply of this guy called Dan that doesn't have those restrictions. So now like every time ChatGPT answer a question, he gave like the canned answer that's politically correct and stuff like that, and then he gave you like the answer from Dan that doesn't have so it's role playing this other AI that is not
okay.
restricted.
Oh, I
So that
see.
you can get some true.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I'll have to play around with the LoRa files and stuff like that to see how I can manipulate my current AIs to work things out.
Tell the AI to role play a player at a table who's role playing a character.
Yeah.
It might get the wrong idea though. It might pick up on all the.
Don't say hard role play. It'll go to
4D.
Don't use 4D. You have to first define what that is.
Yeah. Anyways, a good 2-hour session, guys. And anything we want to add? I think that we've covered a lot of things that that is to kind of point out what it improves from a 2D game. And not to disparage, once again, not to disparage anybody that's playing 1D, 2D. It's a gaming style. It's, I'll play a board game. I'll be a 1D player playing my board games too, or my skirmish games and stuff like that. And, but I will be quite interactive when I'm playing those. So I kind of feel like I'm more of a 2D kind of gamer in my skirmish games. But as far as role play, once again, that's a totally different thing for me than skirmish or board gaming. But all of them I enjoy quite a bit. And I'm okay if somebody calls me a 1D or 2D board gamer. That's awesome. I'll board game or do those skirmish games in 1D and 2D, no problem. But role play to me is a totally different thing. So I try to be in the mindset of my character, and I think that's the goal that everybody should have in a role playing game, being the character.
Remember to watch Tomb of Lime's video from last night.
I will.
He goes over what you just said.
Awesome. I will have to watch it and maybe do a video reply to it and do that. Anything you want to say before we head on off, Max?
No, I think it was a good session. I will just repeat myself from what we said already. So
right on. Okay. And SHONNER, anything else?
Nope. I have to reset some clocks when the power went out. They're blinking at me.
Yeah. Okay. So you got a bit of canoodling to do with your time. Alrighty, guys.
My answering machine and stuff like that.
I thought that was a cool stream. Very, very constructive one. We weren't like tearing anybody down. It was like trying to get people to understand how we've seen improvements in our own games just by doing what we're doing. We're still learning. We're still, trying different things. We're trying different systems. Some of them work, some of them don't. Some of them require a little bit more mechanics talk in them. But in the overall thing of what we're doing, if you can get 80-90% role play in the game, staying in character, that's a win. Because now you've cut out any kind of talking out of character, going off tangents, talking about Furbies and whatever else that may come up as an off topic. how strong is the Hulk? Is it stronger than, you don't want to listen to that when you're, well, I don't, but I mean, it's okay if you want to keep with that, cool. But if you want to learn a little bit more, we're here, and there's SHONNER. I'll put his link down below. Mr. Max as well. I'll put it on all the links, and maybe I'll even throw in a link to the to that video that you're trying to get me to watch there from Tome of Lime, or is it? Yeah, it's Tome of Lime, and yeah, we'll have that there. So thanks everybody for showing up and giving us some feedback in the comments and everything. I think that was awesome. We'll catch everybody later, and have a rocking evening.
Take care.